How we doing, my friends? I am Reaction Jackson here at the All Trades Jack channel, and tonight I am responding to the latest episode of Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 1, Robot Revolution. It is currently 4:30 in the morning. I just watched it, and I'm going to give you my raw, unfiltered takes on the episode. I don't have a script. If you're used to watching my Who essays from the USA, you'll know that whenever I go off script, that's usually when things get dangerous, because I go a lot, and I go right a lot, and I also curse more. And I'm going to try to keep myself in check. I don't have a script. I have this crazy sheet of notes here that I wrote while watching the episode, and I can barely read these because I was looking at the screen the whole time that I was writing. So we're just going to kind of go over my thoughts on the episode, the things I liked, things I noticed, things I picked up on, things I'm thinking about for the upcoming episodes. Obviously, spoiler warnings, not just for this episode, for all of time and space, because I'm going to think of things and reference back to older episodes, so just know that I'm going to spoil anything and everything possible. Do not watch this if you are not caught up 1000% on Doctor Who, okay? I mean, literally any content in the Doctor Who universe I might reference. I don't know what I'll reference. This is off the cuff, off script, so let's just get into it. What do we see in tonight's episode? First and foremost, the cold open is back, and we love that. We love the cold open. That was great. The opening scene, we have the new companion, Belinda, in her element, working in the hospital. And we get a lot of near misses with the doctor, getting some partners in crime vibes, but also getting a lot of Martha Jones vibes, just because she is a nurse, and that's, you know, how David Tennant and Martha Jones met, was in that was in the hospital. And it kind of gave me those vibes, but it's very different because, unlike Martha Jones, who was like a medical student trying to pass, Belinda, she is a boss. She is taking charge. She's taking names. Like, she's kicking major tush right out of the get-go. She's owning it, and it's really cool to see. And on the other side of that, you have the Doctor, who is absolutely not owning anything in this scene. I'm just going to start by pointing out that regardless of how many lives are saved later in the episode or later in the season, we all have to acknowledge that the Doctor killed a whole bunch of people this episode, like in the first 3 minutes. We're all on the same page with that, right? He sonic screwdrivers the computer and shuts down power in the entire hospital. Someone died. I don't know who. I don't know how many people, but somebody died. Lots of somebody's probably died. So, Doctor, you get one thumb down at the start of this. You get one thumb down at the start of this for killing a bunch of people in that hospital. I can't help you with that one. You really stepped in it there. But we have this great intro, and obviously it's clear that the Doctor is looking for somebody in that hospital, and we learn as the episode goes on that somebody he's looking for is Belinda. He is trying to find Belinda right at the start. That's tying into a lot of stuff that we'll get to later in the episode, so I'm not going to go further off on the tangents on that until we double back. Again, I'm unscripted here, so just bear with me for a second. That search that he's going on for Belinda, obviously it leads him all the way back to her house, and he will be there whenever she gets kidnapped. Now, right from that kidnapping scene, there's a lot of great stuff going on. We get our first couple looks at the robots. The robots look excellent. They're good practical effects, good incorporations of practical and digital effects. It's very much like they did with the Meep, I think, with the face changing, the face plates changing with the different effects going over them. Combining those elements of practical physical effects, practical props, those prop guns, prop robots, and all that other stuff, and the digital effects of the faces. I think that was really cool. Right out of the gate, that was really awesome to see that. The rocket ship looked great. They all look like toys. That's kind of what I wrote down here. They all look like toy robots and toy rocket ships, but I kind of vibe with that, especially since by the end of the episode, yeah, they are imposing, they are scary, but again, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but the robots aren't really the bad guys, so it makes sense that they don't look like Cybermen, or they don't look like other kinds of deathly robots that we see throughout the series. You know, they obviously, they're a little more friendly than that. It makes sense when you realize that these robots were friends with the people on the planet for a long time. Right out of the gate, we saw this scene in the, there was a teaser, there was a sneak peek where we saw the kidnapping scene, just the clip of it. Watching that again, obviously, Miss Flood is there. We're told, I think, that she's going to be in every episode this season. I don't know if she's in every episode, but she's going to be a recurring character again in this season. But I had a lot of questions seeing her right then. First of all does Belinda live on the same block as Ruby, or does Mrs. Flood have multiple houses? I'm going to assume it's the latter. I'm going to assume it's the latter just because if Mrs. Flood's going to be all over the place, I'm sure she can set up base just wherever. And it would be kind of weird if she lived on the same block as Ruby, because it didn't really look like the same block. You know, it didn't have those tenement-style buildings that are on Ruby's block. It looked more like a neighborhood, like houses in rows. But Mrs. Flood breaks the fourth wall, something she's wont to do, and it looks like that's continuing on through the series. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about this and talking about her character and using the fourth wall breaks as ways to explain who or what she is. People say, oh, she's the god of stories or whatever. That's the popular theory that's going around. Obviously, because she's a mystery character, people also, who is female, people also say that she's the Ronnie or Susan, because you can't be a mystery female character in Doctor Who without people thinking you're the Ronnie or Susan. But regardless, I don't think that the breaking of the fourth wall is as revealing as people think it is, because she's not the only one doing it these days, right? Since the Disney era, the Doctor has broken the fourth wall a couple of times in the Devil's Cord, because obviously there's always a twist at the end, wink right at the camera. So the Doctor's breaking the fourth wall. And in that same episode, he makes reference to diegetic versus non-diegetic music, so I mean, that kind of hints at the idea that he's constantly just hearing Murray Gold in his ears all the time, which is an excellent image. But, well, it's not really an image, is it? It's audible. Whatever. I'm off script. Leave me alone. But, she breaks the fourth wall and gives us a little wink and a nod. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to spend too much time on Mrs. Flood. I wish I cared more about Mrs. Flood. I don't care. If she's really cool, if it's really awesome, it'll pay out when it pays out. I'm not interested in guessing who she is because, like I said in my last Who essay, I don't think RTD wants us to guess. I don't think he wants us to be able to guess. I think he really just wants to have his big brain moments, and so he's going to give us mysteries that are unsolvable until they're being solved for us. Magical mysteries, a la Now You See Me style, mysteries where you couldn't really solve for it. So I'm not too worried about the Mrs. Flood stuff. I'm more interested in what was going on in this episode and what it might set up for the future. We see when she's getting kidnapped, there's the time slippage going on. All that time slippage stuff does kind of get resolved in the episode, is being explained by her and her partner, or her ex-boyfriend rather, being on different ends of the timeline with the same, they keep calling it a diploma. I wouldn't think of it as a diploma. I think of it as a certificate, but they called it a diploma, so I'm going to call it a diploma. They got two of them, and that time slippage, it seems to have been wrapped up for the most part, except for the fact that we see the diploma again floating in space in the last frame of the episode, and also the Doctor didn't return it to wherever it came from so that they could have it in the future. He still got it in the TARDIS, so we have a loose end that wasn't tied up in this episode, and I think that's obviously they're cueing us in that that's going to play a big part. Another thing in that final scene that was in that same frame as the diploma was the calendar with May 24th marked, and I think that is also significant because the 7th episode, which I believe is going to be Wish World, is the name of it. That should be airing on the 24th, unless I miscounted. Maybe it's the final episode that airs on the 24th. Either way, an episode is dropping on the 24th, so we'll get to a point where the timelines line up, where we're on the same day that the people in the show are at. So that's pretty cool. I liked the time slippage, though. I was reminded of a couple of things. I was reminded of when he was saying he bounced off of May 24th, I thought instantly of the time storm that was around New York in The Angels Take Manhattan, and the way that they were bouncing off of that. So obviously there's some sort of catastrophe going on. There's a couple things that could be going on. Obviously there's all this stuff floating in space, so it could just be that the Earth isn't there. But we're not really sure about that. Maybe it is there, maybe we're not really sure about that, because there's other things that it could be, right? It could be that the Doctor is there. We know he will be there because an episode airs on the 24th, and we can assume that they're going to line it up. And so maybe it's just a matter of he can't cross his own time stream. There's other stuff going on that day. But I think that it'll be more specific than that. I do think that it's going to tie back in with this diploma and how we close that time loop, because we started a time loop in this episode that did not get closed. I'm very curious to see how they end this. If you watch my previous Who essay from the USA, I talk a lot about, in my second Who essay from the USA, I talked a lot about determinism and the way determinism interacts with the rules of time travel. So we've opened up a can of worms with this one. I'd like to see how they resolve it. I'm excited to see how they resolve it. When we get to Planet Belinda, let's get back into the episode, though, because there was a lot of cool stuff going on. Like I said, I love the effects, the practical effects. They get on the Planet Belinda, and there are some really cool-looking effects. Now, big digital planet, big digital backdrop world that we see in a couple of episodes in the Disney era haven't really worked for me. I didn't really love the last episode that Vera de Sethu is in, which was Boom. I didn't like that planet. I thought it looked super empty. I thought it looked super boring. I thought it didn't look like there was any character to it. There was that moment where the sweepers come and sweep out the battlefield and you can see all the planets in the sky, and it looked inarguably beautiful, but it was a little bit boring. Whereas this one, it had a lot of charm, it had a lot of personality, and it had a lot of humor mixed with tension, because obviously there's a war going on, and they call them Miss Belinda Chandra bombs. So that, that is pretty funny to me. That they can undercut the tension of the scene with a little bit of humor, but not so much so that we don't care about what's going on. There's the robot, the little robot that drives in front of her. It becomes a big part of the plot later. She uses it to signal the robots, and also they use it to bring the diploma forward. The little polish guy. And again, this is another one where, like, as soon as I saw that guy, all I could think was gadget. When it's like going polish. It's the first thing I thought of. Is why do people make their robots say goofy things, right? I just thought of David Tennant hating on gadget. But Polish was a rock star. I think he was cute as hell. Really dug that. The AI generator, well, the first time we see him, before we know who he is, and again, I'm spoiling everything, so no holds barred. When we see Al's robot for the first time, I definitely didn't catch that it didn't say AI. I wonder if I go back and look at that, if the bottom part of that L is visible, because this is one of those things we were talking about in the previous video and just a moment ago, is does RTD give us the opportunity to catch things, right? Because that's what I enjoy in a mystery, is I like being duped. I like being surprised. I love it when the writer gets one over on me. But it only works if I can go back and watch it and go, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, it was there all along. But when it's something like the stuffed animals from the Star Beast, that they didn't show the obvious ones that were obviously the aliens from the show, that didn't work for me. Or when Ruby's mom points all dramatically to the sign that was not there, either in the time chamber or whenever, in Church on Ruby Road, whenever he lands there. Those kinds of things, those do not work for me. It doesn't work for me when you had to change what's in the film from one scene to the next so that you can get me. I don't feel anything when you do that, so I will have to go back and look to see if the Al reveal was anything. For instance, so one of the things that I did notice, I've got this written down in my notes, I started writing down the words as the doctor was writing them, the every ninth word thing. I thought that was really cool because I caught that and I was able to go, oh, cool, yeah, and I was writing it out trying to catch the message. Of course, they eventually just redo the message, they tell it to you straight up, so I didn't really have to write it down. It didn't end up mattering because they revealed it pretty quickly after that. But that's the kind of stuff I like. I like to see that thing where it's like, oh yeah, that's really clever, and I can see why it's clever, and it's not just you hid your hand until you were ready to tell me that you're clever, because that does nothing for me. But the Al generator, I'll have to go back and see if you can see that it says Al. I was too busy just taking in how cool he looked, because I was thinking of a lot of things. I was thinking of The Wizard of Oz, specifically the stage production of Wicked. I haven't seen the movies, or the movie, and I haven't seen the movie because there aren't movies. I don't do part ones. I don't do part ones until part two is out, because I'm trying to teach Hollywood a lesson one ticket at a time. But I haven't seen that. I've seen the stage production, and it reminded me of the stage production and the way that the wizard looks in that. Tell me if it looks the same in the movies. I honestly don't know. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about Brainiac as well. He's got a very Brainiac vibe going on for him. And then he opens up the compartment. He's kind of Brainiac in there, too. I like that he had a distinct look, though. I like that he had a distinct look both in his AI generator form and in his robot Alan form. It wasn't anything like we've seen before. It wasn't like Max on the Titanic. It wasn't like the Cyberwoman from Torchwood. This converted human mechanized guy looked new and interesting and different, and I really dig that. I really dig the effect. I really dig the look. There were points when his mouth was moving that you could see the cakiness of the makeup, though. I don't know if you all caught that, if you noticed that. It was bugging me a little bit because he looked really good from a distance, but then they would do some close shots, and that makeup looked really caked on there. I think they could go back in and like digitally brush that up a little bit to clean that up. But, who am I to talk? Look at my videos. They look like crap. Speaking of which, I don't know if you noticed, but we're not in my normal space because I got this wonderful new mic. I say wonderful, it's a cheap piece of... But it's better than what I was using before, which is just my phone. I don't know if you know this, but I make all these videos on my phone because that's what I have. I don't have a camera. I don't have nice stuff. So I bought a cheapo mic. But it means that instead of cramming myself into the closet, I can sit here on the couch of relative comfort, or the sofa of relative comfort, So that's pretty cool. That's why we're down here today. Plus, because I just watched the episode down here, and it just made sense to continue to shoot down here. But anyway, moving right along. In that same scene in the throne room, there's a lot of stuff going on in that throne room. We see the Doctor's embedded. That's a little hint, and his hair has changed. A little hint that he's been there longer. See, again, that's another example of something that's planted in there, so where, like, when I go back and watch, it's like, oh, certainly, yeah, his hair is longer in this scene than it was in the very last scene. He's wearing a totally different outfit, so yeah, he's embedded himself. Of course, he could have just time traveled backwards. We don't know that he time slipped, but we saw the time slips, so we're setting up a lot of things and paying them off, and I think that was really cool. I really liked the idea of Sasha 55. Was her name Sasha 55? Do I have that right? I think it was Sasha. But Sasha 55 is a really cool concept. A lot of things I really like about Sasha. I love the fact that we get to see a stereotypical version of a companion, someone who's just head over heels, totally trusts the Doctor right out of the gate, builds a lot of trust. And the fact that the Doctor and Sasha have been friends now for 6 months and been doing adventures is really cool because we get it without having to see it, you know? And then when that character dies, it's not just a random character dying because we didn't get enough time with her for us to care, but we know how the Doctor is. So being that she and he were together for 6 months and ingrained in this war, we can kind of imagine what their lives are like together, especially these days with Ncuti's Doctor. He gets really attached to people. We saw that in Joy to the World with his companion, who was a much better companion than Joy, the one who was in the hotel room. I'm blanking on her name right now. It's 4 a.m. Give me a break. 4:46. Yikes. Anyway. I liked the idea of showing this would-be companion. She was supposed to be a companion. I love that, you know, the show me the stars Doctor moment right before she gets blasted. Oh, and speaking of that, getting blasted, I think we can officially say no Daleks this season because everyone was looking at the previews, looking at the trailers, being like, okay, where's the Daleks? We didn't have any Daleks last season. Are they going to show up this season? And everyone pointed to that disintegration blast and was like, that looks like a Dalek. And I didn't really think it looked too much like a Dalek. I could see how people might think that, and I definitely could see that it might be a Dalek. But now that we've got this officially, we can say there's probably no Daleks this season. I'm going to go ahead and guess that there's no Daleks this season, which I wonder about that. I wonder what's going on with that. We'll talk about it in a different video. This isn't the place for it. Right, on the note of Sasha 55, another note on her. We have to acknowledge that she was the catalyst for our first tick on the bingo card, which is Ncuti crying. It happens. Ncuti's a crier. That's 15 cries. That's his thing. He doesn't just scream and go all rage mode like David Tennant. He doesn't go all cold and quiet. He cries. That's what he does when he sees something that makes him sad or angry or excited or... I think he just cries. That's what he does. That's fine. That's his deal. But, you know, we do have our first tick on the bingo card. After the throne room scene, we actually get ingrained in with the rebel units, which is a really interesting scene. I really like this scene in the rebel hospital base thing that they're in. It gives Belinda a chance to do her thing. We already got a look at that in her day-to-day life, but it was really cool to see it applied to an alien setting and watching her react on her feet, the kinds of questions she asked. You know, she is not trying to be a companion, but she is trying to uphold, you know, her Hippocratic oath, and she's like, okay, well, what's wrong with this? Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, your shoulder hurts? Doctor, is this guy's shoulder normal? Cool, let me snap that back in place. That was bad. That was so bad. I loved it. She's really cool in that, like, really cool to see her taking charge. And it's not just here. She takes charge a couple of times. I know the other characters in the episode didn't like it when she summoned the robots back, but, you know, whether it was a smart move or not, she took charge. She made a difficult choice, and she committed to it. And then you also have, like, she doesn't want the Doctor fighting for her. She said, don't fight my fights for me. I've got this. I love that. And then she pushes back really hard against the Doctor at multiple points, which I am so here for. I know it's overstated at this point, but, gosh, Ruby just did not push back enough. There was not enough tension or conflict between the Doctor and the companion. And I love a best friend companion. I love Bill and Capaldi. I love Tennant and Donna. I love those pairings. I think those are some of the best pairings because they're just really good friends and they have each other's backs and there's nothing overtly romantic. There's nothing like that. But at the same time, just because they're best friends, they don't just get along on everything because anyone who has a best friend can tell you they call you out. They put you on blast. They can say the things nobody else can say, right? Donna ribs 10 all the time. Bill ribs Capaldi all the time. It's great. I love those moments where they push back, and it was kind of hard to watch Ruby because she didn't push back at all. There's a little bit of pushback in Boom, but who knows? Maybe she was just catching the second hand off of Monday Flynn, you know? She was getting that Belinda energy, like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should push against this guy. So I'm going to retroactively give Belinda credit for that one, too. She's cool. She's cool, and I mean that in so many senses of the word. She's just, like, cool-headed, but she's also just like she's so cool. I really dig her. I knew I was going to. She does lose her cool with the doctor, and rightfully so. She's trying to get home, but not just that. Like, she calls him out on so many things. She calls him out on taking her DNA, which again, that harkens back to that conflict between Rose and Nine, where Rose didn't like that the TARDIS was translating for her, just getting in her brain without asking. That was an invasion of her privacy. Again, we see the same thing with Belinda saying, hey, you just took my DNA and scanned it against future humans? What's that about, dude? Like, that's an invasion of my privacy. And she, like, calls him out, like, really sets him up. Oh, so you're talking about destiny? Is that what you say to all of the girls? Well, if you saw my last Who essay from the USA, you know that it's not all the girls, is it? It's usually just the white ones. Feel how you want to feel about that, but you know, go do the homework. Or if you don't want to do the homework, go watch my last Who essay. It's all the white girl companions that they're connected, and they have special cosmic abilities, and they're all tied in together. And I said in that video that even though I don't like the special companion trope, I don't like the mystery box companion trope, I get bored of that really easily. But even though I feel that way, I was stoked to see that Belinda was going to get this treatment, because it's the first time that one of the companions who is a person of color gets to have that cosmic fate. And I was excited just because finally the BBC had found the courage to give a person of color a destiny, a fate, a cosmic purpose. I did not have on my bingo card that she would reject it. Oh, maybe it's because she already got this other level of fate where people were like, oh, you're the queen, and then hated her for it, and she felt pressured by it, and she had to make tough decisions, and maybe from that, like, she was not ready to hear, oh, we're destined to be together. Maybe she was just already put off by that. Maybe she was put off by the fact that the doctor was too much like Alan. You know, Al, the AI robot man. He was a crap boyfriend, you know. He was a crap controlling boyfriend who tried to tell her how to unwrap her paper and what time she had to be home by and when to stop texting, and you know, it was very controlling. And she might just see some of that controllingness in the doctor and be put off by it. So I'm really digging that we have so much tension, and that's going to continue into the series. I don't know how far into the series it's going to continue, but I can see it's going to continue into the series, because by the time we're leaving the two of them at the end of the episode, they are not going home, right? Or they are going home the long way around, as Capaldi would say. I love that throwback. That's really cool. But if we want to throw it back even further than that, like as far back as we can throw it, is anybody else thinking of Ian and Barbara? I mean, I'm not the only one thinking about that, right? We haven't had this in Modern Who. There have been a couple of times we've come to the edge of this. Donna was one of them. Donna in The Runaway Bride was a reluctant companion. She was scared of the doctor. She didn't want to travel with him. She didn't want to do all that, but she never left Earth really in that whole episode. She left time. They traveled through time to see the beginning of the world, but they didn't leave the planet. But this reminds me very much of Ian and Barbara, who, you know, if you don't know, if you're just a new Who fan, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of people who watch the show who've never seen classic. I wonder if there are people who have seen Disney who've never seen the revival series, you know, who just have Disney Plus and have just picked up. So if I'm just curse of knowledge here, like I said, I'm spoiling all of Time and Space, but that might spoil this review for you if you've never seen that other stuff. But I'm going to reference it because that's my frame of reference. But Ian and Barbara were the very first companions, right alongside Susan Foreman with the first Doctor, William Hartnell. And their whole thing for their whole like arc was that they didn't mean to go on this trip with the Doctor. The Doctor didn't mean to take them with him, and they have a hard time getting home. And it seems like we're going to have that kind of a setup going on for Belinda. What a great setup. I think that's really cool. A couple of quick honorable mentions. People who I think were cool, things I thought were cool. Manny, the testosterone-fueled jacked muscle dude who can apparently hold up the ceiling. I guess you get points for that, Manny. You can hold up the ceiling. That was really cool. Very Manny of you. the time slip effects. I loved all the time slip effects. The ones in the spaceship were cool. The one with Monday Flynn, I wasn't sure if it was a time slip or a flashback when the word Monday was being repeated and the doctor was seeing Monday Flynn in his head. I don't know if that was a time slip or if that was a memory. I'm going to guess right now, let's throw this out there as an off-the-cuff prediction. I'm guessing that was not a flashback, but an actual time slip because 3,000 years is a long time. Okay, 3,000 years is way too long to have a descendant that looks exactly like you. I am going to go ahead and predict now that Monday Flynn is Belinda. Somehow, some way, I don't know how it works, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that they are not two characters. Or if they are two characters, it's in a Clara kind of way, in a Splinter kind of way. I don't think she's a descendant. That doesn't make any sense. 3,000 years is too long to be that genetically similar. We get this referenced too. The doctor says, yeah, it's crazy, it's out of this world. And Belinda says, 3,000 years, is that a coincidence? Which is important because coincidence was the force that was affecting the relationship of the Doctor and Ruby in the last season. Coincidence brought them together. Coincidence powered the Goblin ships. We know that coincidence is a force in the universe. So put a pin in that one, but I think that it's safe to say that we shouldn't take anything on its face as being coincidental. Okay, I have a plan to do a Who essay in the future about recurring faces, because sometimes they get noted, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're a huge plot point, sometimes they're a throwaway line, sometimes we don't acknowledge them at all. I think the fact that they so blatantly outlined this one, we're meant to think something of it, and I do think it might be a red herring, and I do think that this might be the same character. But also in that time slip, I forgot to mention, there was one part that I liked a lot, because I'm a heretic, which is she gets stuck on a loop. Belinda gets stuck on a loop where she says 666. And I think that's maybe more significant than just, a time slip. Because here's the thing. Nobody in the world is ignorant to the fact that 666 is the devil's number. And it's a family show. You didn't accidentally put 666 in there. You just didn't. Now, the fact that we still have the arc going with the gods, obviously we still have the gods as a big part of the Disney era. They play a huge part. We have Sutekh was the big bad of last season, and in the package of episodes that Russell T. Davies said that we should all watch ahead of watching Empire of Death, he included the Satan Pit. And for those of you all in the know, Satan in the Satan Pit was played by the same person who played Sutekh, who is also the same person who played Sutekh in the original airing of Pyramids of Mars. And that's Gabriel Wolf. Gabriel Wolf played all of those characters. I am strongly of the belief that they are the same character, that they are all one character. Even though Sutekh of the classic era looks nothing like new Sutekh, and neither of them look anything like the Demon of the Satan Pit, I am under the impression that they are all the same character. How does it work? I don't know. But this 666 thing flagged automatically in my brain. I was like, oh, there we go. Another hint at Satan. Because again, family show, BBC, casually throwing a 666 in there for fun. I don't buy that. Let's see. What else? What am I missing? I don't know. It's like I said, it's late. I worked a full shift today, and I waited for like 3 hours after getting off for the episode to drop, and then went immediately into recording. So, and that's how it's going to be from now until the time the season is over. So you're just going to have to deal with these off-the-cuff, scattered-brained observations. But let's do a little speed round just to get through my last of my notes here. Couple of quotes worth quoting. Planet of the Incels. I know there are people who are going to get pissed off about that one. I have bad news for you. If you get offended by that, it's because you're an incel. What do you want from me? Don't get mad on the internet about people calling generalized fictional characters incels. If someone cuts a cloth to a general fit and you say it's tailor-made, then that's you telling on yourself, guy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Planet of the Incels, I thought it was funny, if for no other reason than it's a magnet to pull out every idiot who doesn't realize they're telling on themselves. So, 10 points. 10 out of 10 Malcolms for that one. There was another quote I really liked was, if you start deciding which body is best, you're going down a very dangerous road. Ooh, I snapped for that one. That's a good one. That's an all-time Doctor quote right there. Speaking of all-time Doctor stuff, how about that fit at the start of the episode? That is an all-time Doctor fit. Oh my goodness. I saw it with the flannel over top, and I was like, okay, I'm digging the kilt. It's a little mishmashy with the red on blue. But then he strips down with the jacket, and it's got that really slim top. Man, that's a fit, Doctor. That's a fit. I'm here for that. Didn't really get a feel for Belinda's style too much. We mostly saw her in her work clothes and her nightie, but we haven't really got a feel for her style. The only other really good look at Belinda's outfit that we got was as a kid. And I was not sure at first. I was like, what did they do to make her look younger? And then I was like, oh no, wait a second, is that the same actress? And I was like, I think it's definitely the same actress, but I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it. I wasn't really certain of that. But we can't really take that at face value. You know, it's been 17 years. I'm sure her style has changed. So we'll rate her fits later. I'm not trying to rate her fits tonight. That wouldn't be fair. She got really done dirty. It'd be like rating Amy's fits based off of the nightie that she ran off on, or like rating her off of the police outfit that she did the kissogram in. You know, it doesn't count. You know, we don't have a feel for her style yet. But I'm loving the Doctor style in this one. Looking real groovy. I really dig that one. Another great quote, not one of your adventures. Love that one. I think that might have been one of the stinger reels, but either way, it still hit whenever she said it. I thought that was really good. Yeah, I'm not one of your adventures. And that, again, it goes back to the whole idea that she is the first companion who is a person of color that is given a cosmic destiny, that is given a mystery box setup, and she said, no. I'm not going to be your mystery box. And of course, the season will still treat her as such, and of course, the fan base will still speculate and things like that, but I like that her as a character, she's not going for that. She's splitting that difference of she is special, she has a cosmic destiny, but she stands on her own 2 feet, you know? I think that's really cool. I'm really digging that. I can't believe it, honestly. I'm a little bit beside myself with how that worked out. A couple other things that I thought, as far as the series-long arc goes, the denizens of the planet referred to her as she was leaving as Queen of Planet Earth. I wonder if that'll come back. I mean, these people took things so literally that they dragged her across space to come be the queen of their planet. I wonder if they'll actually think she's Queen of Planet Earth and if that'll come back into play at all. I don't know. I'm not banking hard on that one, but I flagged it as being interesting. Another thing I flagged as being interesting was if you're watching the episodes in order, the last episode we watched was Joy to the World, and the next episode we watched was this one, obviously, Robot Revolution, and they start and end, well, the one ends and then the next one starts with a star, right? Joy becomes a star, and then Belinda buys a star. Belinda's boyfriend buys her a star. So I wondered if that was the same star. And I wonder that because there is some tie-in stuff here. Again, nothing's coincidental. Coincidence is a force in the universe in this season, or in the last couple seasons, this Disney era. So nothing is a coincidence anymore, and we have to remember that. The fact that they asked, is 3,000 years in the future a coincidence? We have to ask ourselves, is it a coincidence? And what ties those things in together? What ties in that 51st century setting with Belinda, with a star, with Joy? Of course, it's the Villain Guard Corporation. Yeah? Because the Villain Guard Corporation made the star briefcase thing, the star seed. They were the ones selling the weapons on the planet that Monday Flynn was fighting on. 51st century is also when Captain Jack is from, and that is where we first heard about the Villain Guard Corporation, was his squareness gun. There's a lot of tie-ins here, and I'd be very much surprised if the Villain Guard Corporation doesn't come back around, and because of that, I do wonder about this star. Not only that, but when he points up at the sky, it could have been any star, honestly. He could have just pointed up at the night sky and seen a bunch of little tiny stars and was like, oh yeah, that one over there, that one's yours. But the fact that he pointed up and it was this big, crazy, bright star in the middle, like a gassy nebula that you could see with the naked eye, seemed a little strange. It seemed a little easy, or maybe it's just trying to make it visually interesting. And if it's just that, I mean, I guess I can vibe with that. But again, if you're watching the episodes in order, it would be hard to ignore the fact that the one episode ends with a big bright star being created, the brightest star in the sky, and then the very next thing that happens is my man points to a big bright star, the brightest in the sky, and says, "Oh, I bought that for you." You know, so we'll see if all that ties back around. I'm gonna guess that it does. Whether or not it is the Joy Star or not, I am promising you the Villain Guard Corporation is going to be a huge part of the series, the season, as it. I'm still trying to get used to that, guys, and it's weird because I'm an American and we call shows seasons. Like a single year's worth of episodes we call seasons, but Doctor Who always referred to them as series, and then they switched to seasons, and you would think it would be fine. You'd think I was like, oh, finally, we're driving on the right side of the road, but no, I've acclimated to driving on the other side of the road, and now I'm thrown off by calling it a season. But I digress. I think the Villain Guard Corporation is going to be an important part of this season. Let's see, anything else? What have I missed? Oh, one last thing. I should have mentioned this earlier whenever I was talking about Sutekh and the 666. I'll have to go back and check it again, but did it sound like the TARDIS was still making that sound? Right before the Cloister Bell strikes, it makes a wonky sound, and I think it might be the same sound from Wild Blue Yonder, the sound that we're meant to believe was caused when Sutekh, I guess, woke up or broke the breach or whatever happened with Sutekh and Wild Blue Yonder. It was making that sound still. So I do think we're not done with Sutekh. I do think we're not done with Gabriel Wolf. I don't think we're done with the gods. And I think it all ties back to Wild Blue Yonder, right? Because the last episode of the season is going to be called The Reality War. And that episode, I do believe, is going to tie in with Wild Blue Yonder because too many things started there. That's where the salt was cast that broke the dimensions open and made bi-generation possible, made all these myths possible. It was where this crazy sound that we're led to believe was Sutekh started. It's also where Mavity started, and Mavity hasn't stopped yet. We're still, I don't think they said Mavity in this episode, but they haven't said Gravity either. So we'll have to keep an eye out for Mavity. I think that maybe that's going to tie into the Reality War is what happened in Wild Blue Yonder. I don't think we're done dealing with that one yet. I think that that's going to tie into how the season finishes out. Yeah, that's all my notes for this episode, but let me go ahead and jump off there for a second to talk about where I think the season is going. I'm not big into making the predictions in RTD Era 2, just because, like I said, I don't think he wants us to be able to guess. I don't think that anyone's going to get the ending totally right, because there will probably be something that we're not told until it's happening, and then it'll make everything else kind of moot. But I do have a prediction that I might talk more about in a future Who essay. But for the time being, I want to put out this prediction now because people are going to be chatting, and I want to make sure that I said it first. But here's my thought about the season and where it's going, and specifically about the Reality War, because I think a lot of the time slippage, a lot of the stuff with Wild Blue Yonder, a lot of stuff with the sound effects, the 666 thing, the Sutekh thing, all that stuff, I think it's all coming back, and I think it all ties in with the Reality War. And what I think the Reality War is, not in a story sense, because, again, I don't think it's possible for us to predict the story that Russell T. Davies is writing. I don't think he's going to make it possible for us. That's not a compliment, by the way. It's not he's so big-brained we'll never figure it out. No, he's gonna hold cards back, and we won't be able to guess until he's showing us the cards. But I do have a prediction for what he's doing, because we still haven't gotten Season 3 confirmed. We don't know if Season 3 is coming. We do know that Season 3 is not going to get confirmed until this season is over, and it might not get confirmed. Either way, there's going to be a break, because either they'll have to start filming after May for a season that's supposed to come out in the next year, or they're not going to have a deal. So either way, there's going to be a little bit of a break. But those of you who follow the news will also know that Ncuti just took a job doing a play that's going to keep him busy for 11 weeks. During that period, they would be shooting Season 3 if it was happening. So, what do I think about the Reality War? I think that eventually all these things that are broken about reality are going to get fixed. All this fourth wall breaking, that's going to stop. Okay? All the fantasy elements, they're going away. They're going back into Pandora's box. Unfortunately for Shoots, I think that includes him. I think that includes his bi-generation. I think we're going to get a scene similar to the Fourth Doctor's regeneration. And that's where my thesis statement comes in. It's been prepared for. I think RTD is trying to get us ready for one of two possibilities. Either a soft reboot or a long hiatus that will eventually kick off in a reboot. We don't want to end the series on a survival. We don't want to see the Doctor walking away with his current companion and us getting the feeling that they're going to come back one day when they might not. I think that since RTD came up in the Wilderness era and was a writer for Doctor Who stories in the Wilderness era, he understands what we have to have if we go back there. I think even though he's trying to bear the morale of the whole fandom right now, I think he's a realist and knows that there's a good chance the show goes away. And because of that, I think that he will create a sort of golden parachute for the show. And I think that's what the Reality War is. I think this era of of Doctor Who, if there was the John Nathan Turner era, then this is the RTD era. And it starts with Rose and it ends with this season. I think it ends with this season. I think it bookends with the Time War on one side and the Reality War on the other side. I think this will bookend because I think he's trying to prepare us so that no matter what happens, we're in a good position, right? We have a good Doctor, right? We could maybe come back with David Tennant again. I know everyone says there's too much David Tennant. I agree. I'm not saying we should, but making it a possibility, right? If the two merge back together, maybe Tennant can come back, or maybe he won't come back. Maybe it'll be a whole new regeneration. Maybe the regeneration Tennant should have had then will happen instead of the bi-generation. And it'll be kind of like, again, I said with the Fourth Doctor in Legopolis, where if you're not familiar with it, there was a specter that kind of followed them around throughout that serial. And when Baker dies, the specter comes and basically lays on top of him, and the two become one again. And they merge and they become Davidson. And I think that that's what they're going to do. I think that all of the aspects of reality which have been broken over these last couple seasons will remerge together, and that's where the series will effectively end. And either season 3 will come back with a totally different Doctor, a totally different tone, a totally different companion, everything, and maybe even a new showrunner, maybe not. I don't know whether or not Russ will keep trying to push it, but I think if the Disney era continues, maybe he will. But I honestly don't believe the Disney era will continue. I don't think it will. Even if it does, Ncudi's not coming back. This is Ncudi's last season. I'm confident of that. I think that there's a very good chance that he's gotten too big for it. He's doing other stuff. He's too busy to have this much uncertainty hanging over him. He'll move on. So that's my kind of guess, is that we're building up to a golden parachute, a bookend where we have the Time War and the Reality War, and everything in between is this era of Doctor Who, and RTD is going to prime us for something to come later. And I do think it'll come later. I'm hopeful that later means a year, 2 years, 3 years max. But spoiler alert for my next Who SA from the USA, we're going to be talking about the Wilderness era in the next Who SA, because I think the healthiest thing that we can do as fans is prepare ourselves for what happens if we go back into the wilderness. Now, what did I think of Robot Revolution? I thought it was great. I thought it was fun. I thought it looked beautiful. I thought the characters were compelling. I thought the story was compelling. I think it was really, really good. If all the season is this good, I think they'll knock it out of the park and Disney would sign off on a third season. I think that's possible. I'm not putting my hopes there. And so I think that Russell T. Davies is in the same position. I think that he is also not going to put all of his hopes there. But you let me know what you think. I've ranted and rambled just long enough for one night. It's already way past my bedtime. So I'll leave you all here. Thanks for joining me at the All Trades Jack channel after dark. Once again, this is Reaction Jackson, and I'm signing off.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Subscribe. What?
Click below to subscribe.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe.
Well, how could I possibly forget that? For goodness sake. You got the message, haven't you?